Can you hear me okay? Confirm you can hear me. Let me know. Want to make sure my audio is okay. Really? It's doing it backwards. I'm going to give people some time to jump in. And I got to figure out how to make it do the right monitor. There we go. I had to put a 101 in just for my good buddy Scott there, Professor Scott. Thought he might enjoy some numbers. I'll probably get started at about 7:04 just to give people time to jump in. Uh, I'm watching. I've got a screen up watching the chat window. So if you guys have questions, put them in the chat. I will do my best to answer them after I finish the slide deck. Ooh, this is kind of neat. I don't know if any of you guys ever done this before, but it's kind of neat. You have all these little metrics when you do a stream on your PC. I've never done it on the PC before. Questions. Help. Nope, don't want that. How do I see how many people are actually in? It doesn't tell me. That's great. All right, I'll give it 2 more minutes and I'll start at 7:05. Does my metrics say who is fastest? We're all slow. We're all social distancing right now. Don't use presenter view. There we go. Now I can still see the chat box. I don't have as many spicy memes in this talk as some of the security talks I do. I did a talk on self-driving cars at one point, and I used the picture of the Tesla running into the wall as my starting piece. The people at work found it equally humorous and twisted at the same time. It was quite fun. So, give you an idea how my presentations go. Uh, they're kind of off the cuff on the way I roll. I sit down and make some notes, come up with some topics, build a deck, and then run with the deck. So as soon as the clock flips over, I'll go ahead and get started. I'm impatient. I'm starting now. All right, so the name of this talk is Kia Stinger Data Logging 101. So this is just a crash course through how to review your logs on the Kia Stinger. This is not specific to being tuned, juicebox, lap 3, everything I've tried to make it as neutral as possible. I've got some lap 3 logs I'll show in this. I've got some juicebox logs. I've got logs from my own car, which is a stack car. So this is for everyone, not one specific party. All right. So who am I and why should you listen to me? My name's Will. I love to hack things. I'm constantly hacking on things. If you can hear the noise in the background, I'm currently making masks to send out to Ohio. So I'm always tinkering. I'm a car hacker. My teams have taken first, second, and third at DEF CON's Car Hacking Village. We won a Tesla Model 3 last year, which we donated. I'll talk about the Motec for sure, Jesse. I've been in love with it. I almost wanted to buy one myself. I'm a beta tester on the Comma AI platform for the Kia. So I helped get some of the Stinger values dialed in and working when we initially had to use values. I also am known for hacking the Hyundai BlueLink system back in 2017. There's a couple Homeland Security articles with my name in it, so you can. Yeah, that's a 3D printer in the background. There's a couple Homeland Security articles with my name's in it, and you can go if you just type my name in. You want to read about it. I figured out a way to hijack Hyundai's with their BlueLink system. It was just a bug in the application, the way it worked. I exploited it. Just an example of some of the things I do. This is all my hobbies, by the way. I'm a retired car tuner, and the reason I'm a retired car tuner is because car tuning is fun, but it doesn't pay the kind of money security pays. And I got to go where the money is when you have a family. But previously, I was EFI 101 certified, AEM Gen 1 and 2 standalone certified. I was one of the log reviewers, so I was a big monkey when it came to looking at logs. I loved staring at logs for the world's fastest Corvette. That's Atomic Fusion, owned by Mark Carlisle. I also tuned Mark Carlisle's personal cars. The race car had multiple tuners on it. It was a team. tuned the world's fastest Trailblazer SS. It ran 10s. There was one with more horsepower, but ours could hook up and get down the track. The other one never beat the times on it, which was kind of fun. Did the world's fastest G35, ran 9s in it, and blew the transmission up. I used to be an open source tuner. That's how I got started in all this. Was a lot of people taking me under their wing and teaching me things and telling me what to read. And long time ago, but it was good stuff. I also have expertise in GM, Infiniti, Mitsubishi, Subaru. I'm starting to get there with Stingers. There's a lot going on inside that ECU, and I'm currently beta testing the Torque Stage 1 and 2 tunes for California. I'm an InfoSec engineer in my daily life, and I'm a ham operator, which means I am like the biggest nerd you're ever going to talk to. And I also like to throw out there, I am autistic. So I'm sometimes weird and don't make sense. I do my best, but I mean well. So let's go over some of the topics of this conversation and talk here. So we're going to go over air-fuel ratios. I'm going to explain a little bit about it and give you some guidelines. We're going to talk about timing and what does it mean. We're going to talk about knock. You don't want knock. Knock's bad. I'm currently fighting knock in California because based on some estimates, our gasoline is about the equivalent of 89 anywhere else, and it's really bad. But so we're going to talk about IETs. So that's your intake temps. Talk about boost and fuel trims and fuel pressure. We're going to talk about throttle close. That's probably one of the biggest topics and one of the number one things I see on people's logs that people send me is throttle close. We'll talk about how to combat throttle close and why throttle close happens. And I'm going to show it happening on cars with certain conditions. I'm also going to show it happening for my own car with a tuned setup where the torque management wasn't right and throttle was closing due to that versus due to the other reasons that you'll see. I'm going to talk about some of the tools you can use for logging. And then I'm going to jump into a live demo of some logs. As I'm going through there, if you have questions, shoot them in the chat. I'll do my best to answer them. But I've got about 5 logs I'm going to go through, and I'm going to highlight the various problems that we see in logs when we're looking at them. And I say we because there's quite a few of us. I know Tim all the time looks at logs for people. I look at logs for people. There's a few other people that have sent me other people's logs to look at. So we see lots of things, and lots of people have helped me come together to learn how to discard logs. Got to have more power. Scotty, I need more power. That's for you, Mr. Oliver. We need it. So we're going to start off air-fuel ratios. What is an air-fuel ratio? It's literally the amount of air to the amount of fuel in there. Not too much to go into for our cars. If you're not running either a tune, fuel wires, or a lap 3, you won't be able to adjust those things. So some guidelines. People have heard me talk about cars being too lean or too rich, and it all really matters where you're at in the power band. And I'm going to show that later with a dyno graph. So if you're in the 6s, your car is going to be belching smoke. It's barely going to even run. If you're in the 9s, you're blowing smoke. Ideally, 11.5 is the rich best torque area to be at. And when I say rich best, there's various levels you can go through and a range, which if you tweak in this range, you're going to make power. And beyond this range, you're going to start to lose power. So 11.5 is like the best rich torque side. 12.2 is kind of like the safe best torque, and that's where you really want to try to aim for, unless you're having fuel system problems. And if you're having fuel system problems, you got to deal with those as such. A 13.3 is like the absolute leanest I'd ever take a boosted car, um, in boost. When you're driving around, you're at Stoich, which is the perfect burn for the ratio. I'm not going to go into details on this. There's a wiki article. It's about 7 pages. You guys can read further if you want to learn about what Stoich means, because I'll screw it up trying to explain it. But that's where your car is targeting when you're driving around. And then lean cruise is not something we deal with, and the best economy one we're definitely not dealing with. I haven't seen too many cars that I could get to do 16.5s. I used to run the Subarus at 15s, and they could handle it at cruise, and you'd get a couple more miles per gallon, but overall it just wasn't happening. So let's talk about timing. And I've added some pictures here to try to explain what's going on. I'll bring my mouse cursor over here and see if you guys can see it. So ignition timing is like when the spark happens before top dead center. So when somebody says advance, they're actually talking advance with top dead center. So that means if I were to hit my spark at 10 degrees advance, that means I'm firing it at 10 degrees before the piston gets to the top. Why this is important is this decides how much power you're going to make and ideally where you're going to sit. So typically when you look at timing in a data log, what you should see is peak timing or least amount of timing happen at peak torque. So in our cars, peak torque happens very early. So you see your least value, we'll pick 10 for an arbitrary value. And then as torque reduces, timing goes up. So 11, 12, 13, I think on the stock tune, you usually get around 15 to 16 degrees peak. Could be wrong here, but it seems to be from memory about what we're looking at. So this gives you an idea what timing is. And the reason I'm explaining all these terms is so when we're talking about the logs in a few minutes here, you actually understand what these things and what's happening. Spark knock. Yeah, this is really bad. I've seen pictures from people sending me pictures of their plugs where the end of it's gone. And when I see that, I'm like, ooh, man, that bad boy was knocking its ass off. So a knock event is basically an uncontrolled combustion event. Normally you have an explosion, it goes down from the spark plug, it pushes the piston down, everything's happy. When you have knock, that means that there's been a spot inside the cylinder where either temperatures were too high because of the octane level or something caused it to ignite improperly. So unstable combustion or premature combustion. And when that happens, you get forces inside of the piston going different directions and can damage things. You can see chipped valves, you can break spark plugs. An even nastier one, I've heard that you can damage the direct injected injectors. I haven't seen that yet, but one of my tuner buddies was telling me this can happen. Sorry, let me go back here. So some of the reasons you can get spark knock, bad fuel. You can get knocked just from a bad tank of gas. It can happen. Too lean of air fuel ratios. If you're running really lean and you're running a lot of boost, you might get some premature combustion because the temperatures in the engine are too hot. So lean air fuel ratios, IATs being too high. If you heat soak the engine or heat soak your intercooler, you can definitely cause some knock. That could be caused by a really hot day and you're beating the crap out of the car, or even too much boost. You're trying to run 26 pounds on our little tiny turbos. Or last but not least, can be too much timing advance, which is what I've been dealing with. When we're fighting that a little bit here in California, we tried to pour in some extra timing. My car said, nope, ain't happening. And we had to back it off a little bit or turn the water methanol on. So, all right. Take a breath here. So IATs, this is your intake temps, and this plays along with everything else because it's all a combo. In our cars, we're really lucky. A lot of the cars I used to tune, the IAT sensor was not after the intercooler, which means all I knew was the temperature of the air going in the car. I didn't know what it was after it had already been through the turbocharger. So our cars actually has it after the turbocharger, which is really nice. It's past the intercooler, so you can actually see if your intercoolers work. And from what I've seen, the stock intercooler sucks. Everybody's logs I see with upgraded intercoolers are way lower than mine. And they're not even using meth. So lower IATs means more power. The cooler the air, the more power the car makes because cooler air is more dense. How do you get some cooler air? How do you get it? A proper cold air intake. So this has some impact, but in my personal testing on other platforms, not specifically the Kia Stinger, it doesn't play as big of an impact as you'd think. It makes an impact on your initial air coming into the engine bay with your hot air intakes or your short rams or whatever you'd like to call them. But as soon as you get moving, there's so much air moving, and it's already sucked all the air in the engine bay that was hot out, and you're already getting cooler air from the front. So it can help a little bit, especially if you're going to sit for a while before it or you're staging at the track. So having a heat box around your intake cones. That being said, I don't have it, but I will at some point, maybe. Water methanol injection. For me, that drops my temperatures 20 degrees Fahrenheit, boom, instantly, right out the rip. And that's with the 70-30 mix. Um, Water methanol has lots of other bonuses that go with it, but it does bring down your IATs. Bigger intercooler. There's lots of intercooler options out there. I'm not sure what I'm going to go with. I'm still running the stocker, but bigger intercooler would definitely bring them temps down from the cars I've seen logs from. And more efficient turbos. So, we're pushing the turbos a little bit hard on some of the faster cars, and because of that, they're going to get higher IATs because they're less efficient. So if you had some pure turbos or the new turbokits.com turbos and you're running that same level of boost, because of the efficiency, you would get lower IATs. If you want to learn more about this, go check out compressor maps and look at the compressor map efficiency and do the math. It's really fun stuff. I used to do it all the time. What is boost? Boost is the magic of life. I think it was Jeremy Clarkson who said something like air goes in, witchcraft happens, power comes out. So that won't work for our discussion, but I like the statement. Boost or manifold absolute pressure is usually displayed in bar PSI, and what it is it's the amount of air above the ambient air pressure. So if you're at zero, zero in California may not come out zero is the same of what is technically zero in another area. So in like Denver, it's going to be different because they're at a higher altitude. Also means the car has to work harder to build boost and suck air in. This is air density stuff you see on a lot of the draggy stuff. So why is boost important and why is this map sensor important? Well, the piggybacks, all of them, I don't care if it's a race chip, lap 3, JB4, any of the piggyback devices work by intercepting the signal that goes to the map sensor. Now what they do is they say, hey car, you're asking for, right now I think you're supposed to be asking for 10, but I'm not going to let you see that right now. So I'm going to actually tell you you're seeing less than that. So the car goes, oh crap, I'm at 9. I need to go ahead and add some more duty cycle to the wastegate to bring the boost up. That happens, and that's how a piggyback functions. Literally, that's the magic behind it. They spoof the map sensor. This is why a lot of times we joke about them and call them spoofy boxes because they're just spoofing some sensors. Uh, Fuel trims. This is the other really, really important one here. The reason fuel trims are important is fuel trims cause throttle close, and we'll show you that some here in some logs in a moment. Uh, all the piggybacks that intercept the map sensor, what they don't know is since the car thinks it's running, let's just say 10 psi for argument's sake, and in reality the car's running 15 psi. That's 5 more psi the car has no clue is there. The only reason it can adjust and do the fueling the way it does is because it goes, hey, the oxygen sensor, I'm asking right now for, an 11.2. Okay, I'm asking for that 11.2, but the oxygen sensor says we're at 12.2. I got to add some more fuel in to try to get back to my target. And this is what's called closed loop fueling. And it's the magic that makes all these piggybacks work. Without closed loop fueling, they would actually have to piggyback the injectors and other things too. Let me go ahead and read. I got a couple questions. At some point, can you cover EWG cables and how they're working? I will talk about that. I don't have them, but I know about them, and I'm thinking about getting them. It seems like it'd be neat to play with. So let me get back to fuel trims real quick here. So the car sees a situation that's different than what it's requesting. It adds or removes fuel. Now, why this is important, JB4s, lap 3s, all of them can do a few things to correct on this. One thing they can do is the lap 3 can adjust the air fuels directly from my understanding. The JB4, you have to have fuel wires hooked up, but now you can adjust it. And when you adjust it, you're lying to the car and telling the car, okay, you're really at this, but you're not. And the reason this works is because the air fuel sensor thinks it's still at the target 11.2, and in reality, it's at like a 12.2 because the JB4 or lap 3 has intercepted the voltage or added voltage to the wire to change what it's targeting. This becomes super important. We'll talk about it in throttle close a little more, but the way JB4 shows its trims are kind of weird. So fuel trims are called trim inside of JB4. I don't remember what it is in lap 3, but it's not 0 to 50. It's actually, I'm sorry, it's not like negative to positive like normally you would see them. It's 0 to 50, and 0 is negative 34%, and that means that the car is pulling out 34% fuel to reach its goal. 25 is 0. 25 is perfect. You'll notice that in most of my logs, when the water methanol is off, I'm at a 25 always because I'm not spoofing any boost. When I add the methanol in, you'll see my trims go low, and I'll start going way low. And 50 is a positive 34 trim, which is pretty bad. Anything past like mid 40s seems to cause throttle close to happen. Let's talk about the high pressure fuel pump, or fuel FPH. So our cars have a low pressure fuel pump and a high pressure fuel pump. The low feeds the high. The high brings the PSI up really, really high. I believe it's 2,200 millipascals, I believe. It's displayed on the JB4 as an integer, 0 to 16. Stock cars typically run 10 to 11. The tuned cars run 11 to 12, so they're cranking the pressure up a little bit higher. The really important number to watch for is 6. If your fuel pressure ever goes down, or you have a fuel pressure crash and it hits 6, the car is going to go into limp mode. It's going to pull all the power out. It's going to be pissed off. I like it to be above 10. Honestly, I start getting concerned anytime it starts dipping like 9, 8. It tells me I'm running too much boost and I probably should have meth on. What to watch for in the lap 3? The lap 3 displays it in a raw value. I would be concerned if it dropped below 2,000. If anybody is a lap 3 expert and wants to correct me on that, go right ahead in the chat, but that was what I came up with. So let's talk about throttle close. This is the biggest thing that impacts piggyback owners, period. It slows you down. Basically, what happens is once you get your trims too high, your car goes, I'm closing the throttle blade when you shift. And this is a log of it happening. You can see it. This orange line, this blue line is the throttle that the person is floored. This orange line is what the actual throttle plate is doing. And you can see it. See when it shifts, it's going, oh crap, I'm going to go ahead and close that throttle. And you'll lose each time that happens 1/10 to 2/10 in your times. So in this car, 1, 2, 3, 4 times it happened on a single pull to 125, I believe the log goes to. So if that was a quarter-mile run, they lost a whole bunch just from that throttle close. So the fuel trims in this case were really high, in some cases in the 50s. How can we combat that? What can we do? Well, one thing you can do is use the fuel wires to lean the car out some. Leaning the car out some uses less fuel and will help you have less trims because of the way the leaning it out works. The other way is to add water methanol. This sounds like this talk's almost a just endorsement of water meth, but unfortunately, because we don't have a way to put a bigger fuel pump in right now, though I hear one's coming, or a bigger rear fuel pump, the best thing we can do is add water methanol to our cars. And that will bring the trims down significantly. You can get them back in line and basically use that as a Band-Aid to run higher boost levels on the juice box than you would be able to with even just running race gas. All right. Another one, and I'm going to show a log of this in a bit here, is use less E85. If you mix your E85 too rich, you're going to get high trims. You're going to get throttle close. Other ways you can get throttle close: if you get a whole bunch of knock, it'll close the throttle. That I've only ran into in one case, and that was on my own car in testing. I was going for something I was hoping was going to work with 91 octane, and it wasn't, just not there. So we added some meth, problem went away. Ways to correct this problem: add more octane. I don't care if it's butane, water methanol, some E85, anything to bring those octane points up will help with knock. Run less boost. The other one I see happen is I've troubleshot many logs for people where they send me it and they tell me they got the juice box installed and they ran some logs, and what you find out is they're running the wrong map. So if you're having issues and you think you're knocking or your logs ain't good, verify you're on map 2 or map 1 if you're running, base fuel. The other way is let your car cool down. If you're hot lapping it, you are going to reach a point when it just can't get rid of the heat anymore. Traction control will also throw it closed throttle. Drive better is the solution there. And high pressure fuel pump going too low. Around 6, throttle's it ain't even just going to close a little, it's going to close a whole ton. Meth but no plus N2O talk. I tell you what, you send me nitrous, I'll put it on the car, dial it in, and make sure I like it, and then I'll do a talk on it. All right, we're almost done with all the terminology. So this is really the demonstration to show off my new big turbo Kia Stinger. It's now making 845 horsepower, 768 torque, and I'm bullshitting you all. This is really just me wanting to show you guys how to read a dyno graph. So everybody likes to talk about dyno graphs, but almost nobody knows how to read them. And let's talk about that. So usually when you have a dyno graph, there's a couple things you want to see. You want to see the power. That's important. You also want to see the air-fuel and how the air-fuel curve looks. You also want to see the boost. It's always good to know, like, what kind of boost is the car running to make that power, or where is it hitting that boost, or why does the curve look the way it does? So on this car in particular, this is a car I tuned a long time ago. It's a Corvette C6 with an LS3, built all the things it needs with a centrifugal blower. So you'll notice the boost starts very low and it just keeps gradually climbing all the way out to 15.6 pounds. You'll also notice the air-fuel ratio. Right here where torque is coming in, where I'm above 500 foot-pounds of torque, that air-fuel ratio is below a 12.2. And you're going to see a perfectly flat line. Now, this is a perfect world with like a top-notch tuning solution. I mean, I was using HP tuners. I had full control, unlimited dyno time. I could do whatever I wanted. So if you'll notice, the curve is very flat and stays right along that dotted line. That's the goal. The other thing to look for in a dyno graph is if a dyno graph doesn't cross at 52.52 like this, something is off, and you should look at the graph and look for some problems in the graph. Look for the torque versus the horsepower. Make sure the scales are the same, because sometimes people will change the scale to make a car look like it has more torque than it really has. Another important thing to look at when you're looking at your graph is, what is the correction factor? I don't know when it happened, but everybody seems to like STD now. Back when I was doing this, SAE was the only way. STD reads higher than SAE, so that's my guess, as everybody's using it because of that. The other thing to look at is smoothing 0. I have yet to see a Kia Stinger graph posted at smoothing 0. And part of that is because of the way our differentials work if you're an all-wheel drive car, or the auto transmission just doesn't come out as smooth, which is okay. This car is silky smooth. It's running E85. I can throw all the timing in the world at it. You don't even have to turn smoothing on. So this is just a quick crash course on how to read a dyno graph, because it seems to be a big problem in our community. And I didn't use a Kia Stinger because I didn't want any drama. That's why I chose something that was a different platform. Let's talk about the tools real quick. I left ECU Edit on here because it's a really, really good CSV viewer. I don't use it as much now since somebody turned me on the DataZap, but it's a great tool. The JB4 mobile app has a great viewer inside of it, as does the Lap 3 apparently. I have not tested it myself, but I have talked to people and they said you can view the logs inside of it. The JB4 also has a Windows app you can view logs in, and you can open other logs inside of it. It seems to handle just CSVs. I'm going to talk about a tool called DataZap. DataZap.me is really awesome if you're on a PC, not so great if you're on a phone. I'm going to talk about Excel and Google Sheets. I use those just for looking at the details. And now it's demo time. So we're going to go ahead and jump into some demos. I'm going to share this PPT afterwards. It's got a couple links in it and some things you can search to look up things, a book to learn more about tuning. And then I had to have a quote at the end before I entered it. Yeah, Data Zap is awesome. I think it was Chris that told me about it. So one of my mentors that taught me GM stuff used to have a joke. Anytime a customer would ask how much boost they're running, his answer was always all of it. So had to have a quote at the end. All right, we're going to see some logs now. So I'm going to start out with the JB4 log, and I'm going to show you how to use the JB4 app like from the basics, but I am going to spend more time on Data Zap. So this is the JB4 log viewer. It's straightforward to use. I've got a log in here with some problems, and I'm going to show you how to see these problems. I just don't like that I can't zoom in and out, but it's really easy to use. I'm not going to lie. Like you can be in basic view and add things custom, or you can even hit pro view and see it even better. So I'm going to go over some of the problems here, and then I'm going to show pro view and a couple other things to look for. So this is a car that was running map 3 on E85. As I'm scrolling across here, if you'll notice, his trim's up there at 47. So in the little box, 3 from the bottom, you see trim says 47. And the next thing you're going to notice here, see that orange line that's dropping? That's his throttle closing. And the reason that throttle's closing is his trim's too high. Yes, I am a gamer, and as soon as this talk is over, I'm going to be playing Warzone, doing some StarCraft. No, the Koreans beat me. All right, sorry. Let me finish this off here. So the trims are really high, which is causing this car to throttle close, which made the car not feel so good, and the guy aborted the pole. We were just troubleshooting some stuff here when he did it. Some things to look for are anytime the throttle, you see that red line at the top, and you see the orange line falling. So if your throttle is like 58 and your pedal's at 100,000, that means that you got the pedal mashed to the floor, but the car just pulled out half the throttle. So it's going to feel really slow on that shift. Let me go ahead and I'm going to show another thing here. This is nice. So if you hit Pro View, it automatically turns on all the things that I guess Terry has decided is important for this. The things I look for is I like to see the timing running in the same line. So if you see here, the timing's all within a half a degree of each other, which is really good. That means that the car is not doing rainbowing, which means it's not knocking, it's not having issues. Same here, you can see very close together. You'll notice on shift, timing drops all the way down. This is just a thing that happens in the factory tune. Same here, timing drops all the way down. We're looking at some air-fuel ratios here. You can see air-fuel 1 and air-fuel 2. This car is sitting in like 11.5, 11.7s, 11.4, 11.3. If this was my car and I was tuning it, I would have it on map 6, and I would lean the car out to about a 12.3 on E85, which would help with those trims a little bit. And maybe get that in line so he wouldn't have the throttle close on shift. So I'm going to jump over to some other logs here real quick here. The divorce is for my wife's stuff. I'm adopting my children, not getting a divorce, just so if anybody else is staring at my desktop right now. All right, so let's start out with this is Data Zap. And Data Zap allows you to set up some profiles. It allows you to save those profiles. What I really like about Data Zap is when I set up all this stuff in here the way I want to see it, if I copy the link from up here and send it to somebody, they see it exactly as I see it. There's some things about Data Zap that some people don't like as much. I'm going to show you how I work around those. But this is a case of a car, and I'm going to explain the problem and how I know it's the problem. And how I know it's the problem is a little bit weird because it's a tuned car. So this is my car. We were adjusting some stuff on the shifts, and you'll notice here throttle is closing. So you see that orange line dropping down? Throttle's at 77, pedals at 100. That's not good. You'll also notice that my trims are well in line. My trim 2 is a 26. I don't even have trim 1 up. Nope, trim 1's a 29, which that tells us that it's not a throttle blade closing it. My timing is actually like not jumping around like crazy. So I'm watching it. Hold on, ignition 1, 9, 5, 8. I'm not running. Oh, now I can see the car just pulled timing right at shift as well. and you'll see it go down even more. So when I see timing getting pulled and throttle getting pulled, typically that tells me that the car is having a torque management issue, uh, not a specific trim issue. So trims are 0, throttle's closing, timing's dropping at shift pretty hard. And yeah, now I want to show how what I like to do when I am reviewing a log. Like if I'm looking at this log, I like to get rid of the throttle after I've already verified my throttle stuff. I like to get rid of pedal. Then I like to get rid of mile per hour. And the reason I do that is to open the resolution up so I can look at boost and air fuels easier. So like I can look at the air fuel line there, which is this blue and gray line going across. I can see that it's pretty flat, which tells me it's staying around where I want it to be. You will see it spiked on shift, and that's because it pulled all the stuff out for torque management. So let's jump into another one. You can always replay later. Yep, you can, and this will be saved and up for everyone to continue watching later. So next I'm going to show throttle close due to trim. Let me get the link here. Boom, Control C. This is throttle close due to trim. And again, I'm opening, just pasted a link that I had saved somewhere. Boom, this guy's having throttle close on every single time it shifts all the way through. And if I look at his trims, trim 2 is like 38, trim 1 is in the 40s most of the time. And a lot of times once it's started happening, it just keeps happening if you've had it for like 2 shifts in a row. I don't know why that is, but even here where the trim is not as bad, you see it happen again. It's like once it happens so many times, it basically goes into limp mode and it's just pissed off from that point forward. Want to show throttle, get rid of mile per hour, and let's get rid of pedal. And again, you can see on shift here, boom, boom. It's the ignition zeroed out there. All right, let me grab another log real quick here. I've got a high pressure fuel pump to show, a lap 3, and the one that blows our mind the most, which is frozen trims. All right, so next one here. This is a lap 3 log. Sorry, I'm answering a question for somebody in the chat box. Because there's a few things that do happen with the trims. Like if you were at a really cold temperature or really hot temperature, the trims will be different in the way it decides to close. So what we believe is happening, but I'm not 100% sure. I've got a PDF for an older the Optima ECU, and I've read through some of the stuff. What it seems like it's happening is it seems like there's an airflow model that gets built off the injector, like how much is being injected, and then off the air temps. And if that airflow model exceeds a certain number, then what will happen is the throttle will start to close. Yeah, it depends. If it drops before 6K, that's the other thing. So there's a couple. That's why it's like not an exact number. But if you see trims in the 40s and you see throttle closing, you can pretty much guarantee that's why it happened. All right, so this next one here, this is a lap 3 log. I want to point out that the lap 3 does look a lot different, but a lot of the reason for that is because they're logging different stuff. So they log significantly different than what the JB4 does. They actually have values that I haven't seen in the JB4. There's like all kinds of different things. Like the way they do knock is different. Everything is different. So just because you see a slower looking log, a lot of the times it's because the values are repeating because they're pulling so many values. And I thought it was really neat to look at like they have the ambient pressure. They have what's one of the other ones I've seen? The exhaust gas temps. It's got EGTs. We don't have EGTs in the JB4. At least I haven't seen it. Maybe I missed it. So there's a few ways that they do things, but in general, same thing here. You're seeing Air fuel ratio, spark, advance, number one. Uh, this is a methanol car, so the methanol pump is running. And then at the top, you can see the boost. Like this car's running 17, I think it's running, I'm sorry, 18 and a half, and it tapers off to like 15 by red line, somewhere around there. This was a dyno poll on a specific car. Just wanted to show off what the difference. So if you are a lap 3 user, you can understand that this stuff still applies. You're still looking at the same data. Though some of the values are slow down here, certain values such as boost are read from the module, and it's much faster. So you still get good resolution on things. So if there was a glitch in here, you would see it and you'd know that it's somewhere between 4,300 and 5,200, which isn't great, but you could figure it out based on the number of intervals it happened. Yeah, I've actually asked Terry to put some of these values in, like the airflow one. What is that? Yeah, the airflow model. Super curious about this. Like it's got, they actually can see something they're calling airflow, and we don't have anything like that inside of the JB4. All right, this next one is, I think this is my car actually. Maybe, we'll see. This is a high pressure fuel pump crashing. May not be my car. We'll see. All right. Yep, this one is not mine. This is a different car. So boost is at a whole bunch. We're at 23 up here. You see the fuel FPH is already at 9, so not even like this is a car launching and having a problem with too much boost. We're at 4,500 RPM. Fuel pressure's crashing. Now it's down to an 8 at 46. Now it's down to a 6. You're going to notice now the throttle starts doing its thing and closing. Oh, the throttle got pulled completely out. Boom. So this is a high pressure fuel pump crashing, and this is just because this was too much boost for the car at 24 pounds. That's peak point for it to handle. It just couldn't handle it. Too much. Yes, this is an ECU tune. This was I think Tim and them playing around with trying to push as much boost as they could with no methanol to see where the limit was going to be, because we do have our fuel pressure pumps turned up a little bit. And yeah, 24, it ain't going to happen with our stock setup. With methanol, maybe. But I don't think we're seeing much more performance with it. Just wanted to use this as a way to show this is what it looks like when the pump crashes. And you can see the pedal's still at 100%, but the throttle's closed. I mean, it's all the way down at 21 down here. The car's literally acting like it's cruising. It's running 44 degrees of timing. Sorry about that. I tried to give you guys the COVID. And this last one is a weird one we see from time to time. And what is strange about it is we don't know why it happens, but we see it happen. And the terminology we give it right now is frozen trims. So I'm in DataZap. Every time you see, this is loading up with a bunch of settings because I've got my own preferences saved and I've got my little dashboard built, but you have to set all that up your first time. So just zoomed in on the map so I can look at it a little better. And where did the trims freeze on this car? All right, so for some reason, we don't know why, this happens on certain cars. This car is a juice box car. It's running 17 pounds of boost. I think it's running meth. Let me look. Let me turn on meth. Where are you at, M? Oh, I think. Oh, nope, I removed it on this one. Water trans E85, load, map. There's meth. Okay, cool. This is a methanol car. I wanted to verify that before I said this. So this car is running meth. He's on map 6 with a custom setup. Air fuels are you know, he's running like came up to 12.6. He got a lean on shift a little bit, at 12.9. But the trims here are still showing 29, right? Yes, 29 on both trims. Still 29 on both trims. The car's at 11.5. 12.2, we're going to see it start getting real rich here. Now it's on a 10.7. Again, the trims are still at 29. They're not moving an inch at all. So now at this point, the car's not correcting, and you're going to see it just keep getting rich, and it's not fixing itself where it should. We don't know why this happens for sure. It happens. It's something to watch for. So if you have an anomaly in your air fuel, just verify your trims are not stuck, especially if you're running water meth. I haven't seen this happen without water meth. I guess it could, especially if you're running like E85 and car was really heavily dependent on trims. But with methanol, I've seen it happen on my car. I've seen it happen on logs from other cars. I've seen it on stock tunes and stack life. Middle row number 3. Thank you. So this is my last log to review. I'm going to give you guys like a couple minutes to type any questions out. If not, I'm going to go ahead and end this out. But while I'm doing it, I'm going to open up some of the other logs for shits and giggles. This is a 60 to 130 pull that's actually clean. You'll notice that my trims are really, really low. 15, shift, 17. And that's because I'm spraying a lot of methanol. That's what makes my trims going so negative. And I'm stacking boost on top. I'm adding 2 pounds of boost on this pull above the tune. But just spraying a ton of meth. Any other questions? None? I'll give it one more minute. I hope people enjoyed it. I hope I spoke clear enough. If you guys do have questions about this, feel free to contact me. You can either friend me on Facebook and ask questions. I'm usually pretty friendly about answering them. Or you can reach out in the comments, and I'll do my best. What do you consider a rainbow via normal timing divergence? Oh, yes. Let me see if I've got a rainbow log I can get to. And EWG cables. Let me see if I've got an easy-to-get-to rainbow log. Upload my data logs. Pull up the M1 and let's build me a map. Okay, I'll do it right now. I could already tell you the things I'd change, Jesse. I'd add about a degree of timing, maybe a little more. I'd turn the boost up a little bit. I've been drooling over the friggin' software. Let's see if I've got one here. DataZap's kind of cool because it keeps all of your logs in here. Popcorn and knocking. Fuel pressure crash, fuel trim, throttle. Let's see. This version. Nope, that's not rainbow timing. Hey Tim, do you have a rainbow one you could send me? So what happens in the rainbow, and the reason we call it the rainbow is because each timing line has its own color, and inside of JB4, each color ends up spreading out. It looks like the rainbow. So like ignition 0 would be at say 10 degrees. Ignition 2 would be at like 9 degrees. Ignition 3 would be at like 8 degrees, and ignition 4 would be at 8 degrees. Ignition 5 maybe at 6 degrees. Vice versa. So what happens is it starts to look like a rainbow. Big fart on shift. I just don't have one available right. Wait. Herbert's car was all kinds of jacked up at one point. Let me see if that's one of them. Oh yeah, this is the crazy log. I remember because I was like, hey, I don't think you're patched because he didn't have all the ignitions. Yeah, most JB4 logs have a slight rainbow to them, but none of the ones I have in here are because they're mostly meth and tune cars. My car doesn't tend to rainbow. And if you have rainbowed, usually you have to reset the ECU after a while to get it back to happy. Let me check. One more log. Yeah, this was all kinds of pissed off on my car. Let's see. Do latest version. So there's a little bit of rainbow on this one. Not a ton. I have ignition 1 at 11, ignition 2 at 10.5, ignition 5 at 8.3. I'd consider that a slight rainbow. And if you look at the lines, so if you look at the lines here, see how green, pink, see how they're like spread out? That's why we call it rainbowing. EWG cables. So those are kind of nifty from what I'm seeing. What they're allowing people to do is right now with the way with the JB4 and the Lap 3 and all the other ones work, they spoof what the map sensor sees. But the car only has a certain percent of correction it can do. I'll explain how to reset the ECU in one moment. So to do the correction, like say you aimed for like 7, you can take a look at mine specifically, trim spiking before 4500. Oh, that's rainbowing a little bit. You've got 11, 11, 3, 9, 8, 12. That's definitely rainbowing a little bit right there. See that? Are you asking about your trim spiking down here? So your trims are faded all the way out though by redline, so you wouldn't have a problem on that pole. The reason it's so high down here is because you're actually able to run a bunch more boost. You're running 18 pounds and the car is supposed to be running 12.7. On the top end, the car thinks it's running 10 and you're running, it says 16.6, but I guarantee it's probably not hitting it all the way. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm wrong. I haven't quite figured out how that piece goes. E3375. Okay. And you have fuel wires, I'm assuming? So as long as it recovers by the time you're at redline, you're all right. You're doing pretty good with your E-mix there. All right, let me finish the EWG wires and the resetting ECU. And if anybody else has any other questions specifically, I'll answer them. To reset the ECU, I pull the battery wire. And then I pump the brakes. And I leave it unplugged for a little bit. And then I put it back in. It's just a 10 millimeter to pop the battery plug off. Pull off the negative, let it sit, pump the brakes, and then you're reset. EWG cables. So when you command boost at redline, the car's only going to give it so much because there's a limit to how much you can go above and beyond. And you also can't fix some of the like super redline crash. So like see here how the throttle went down. Like he's not ran all the way to 63, but on this you see his ECU boost is 9.1. His regular boost is 14.8. With the EWG cables, instead of the car going, hey, I want you to have this much duty cycle, the EWG cables are going, hey, I want you to have what the car said plus 10% more or 15% more. I haven't dialed it in specifically, but I have been looking at logs from people that have it and talking to some people that have it. And this is going to allow us to, on non-flash cars, potentially change the power curve towards redline. We're still going to be fighting trims and other things, which you can combat with methanol, but you can still raise it higher. It's also going to allow, hopefully, and it's apparently working on some cars, but not on all cars, on catless cars, allowing them to get rid of some of the overboost that's happening by reducing the amount of duty cycle that's going to the wastegates. I hope that's a good enough answer. If not, I can try to go into it deeper in one-on-one conversations, but I haven't personally got hands-on with it yet. By the way, you notice your throttle is kind of closed there. See that? When your trims are that high. If you added water and methanol on top of this, you could make that go away. Yeah, it's actually a little bit down right there. Boom. Look at trim 2, though. What the heck? Pedal, throttle. All right. So, any other questions? No? I'll give it another 30 seconds, and then I'm going to go ahead and close this out. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope I enlightened some of you guys, and we see more people trying to go fast this year. Oh, hold on. Just because someone asked. I will do this real quick for the last couple seconds. Oh, what's this? Kia Stinger. I want to tune this ECU so bad. Based on the load and targets that I think that they're running for, their timing is like stock almost. So, just saying, Jesse, I think that with methanol, race gas, or any other thing, you're going to be able to add some timing in here for sure. I mean, like this part of it's straightforward to tune. Very straightforward to tune. Just like an AEM, basically come in here and make some adjustments and be like, I want to change the value. Uh-oh. Equals 19. Ooh, can I do it like this? Just since I'm playing already now. Can I do equals plus 2? Ooh, I can. There, I just added 2 degrees of timing to the entire map. What boost are they running? Let's take a look. Boost control. Trying to remember where it's at in here. I found it the other night, too. They're also not doing much with the launch stuff yet, either. Yeah, it's 17, but I'm trying to remember where I found it. They have a, like, this is definitely a new ECU to look around in, but it's so straightforward and clean. Oh, my God. This was the part I really liked, and I'm pretty sure we could make some adjustments here, too, and pick up something. So, cam timing. I've never got to see it. I don't have this table figured out inside of WinOS. So seeing like what they did with cam timing and knowing that they did this on a dyno, I was super, super interested. Like typically my experience has been on big boost cars, you start pulling out more cam timing. I don't know. I would love to sit and play with this on a dyno. Like the cam timing stuff, I'd need a dyno for sure. But just adding some timing and dragging or updating the boost, or even, here we go, fuel mixture. There's the air fuels. I can tell you right now that there's power to be picked up in the air fuels too. Let's figure out what they're targeting. So, calc. We're going to take 14.67, which is Stoich, and we're going to multiply it by, I know they're going to be running 1750, so we'll do 0.78. So they're running 11 fives. That is super conservative for our cars. My car on California gas runs 12.2. So this could be leaned out for sure too, Jesse. There's definitely some easy tweaks in here that could probably pick up power. With a couple of hours, I'm sure I could figure out how the boost stuff works. And I hate you very much because now I want to buy one of these so bad. Like, I'm in heaven. All right, so I'm going to end this now. Anybody who is interested in the Motec stuff, I can't wait to see what these new Motec cars do. They're going to break the mold, I'm sure. Oh, one other interesting thing. Transmission. So we've always wondered about like what kind of information got sent to the transmission. Well, here it is. They've got it figured out, and they are passing a torque value. Like it looks like when they're shifting, and I'm not 100% sure because again I'm new to the Motec, but it looks like to get around any torque limitations that might exist on the TCU, they're just sending the same value. All right, well, take care, guys. I'm going to go ahead and end this out for the night and go play some Warzone on Battle.net. Take care.